And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. On today's episode, I think the title of this video kind of describes what I'm thinking for today's video. It's just the winds of change of Pokemon are here, and they're kind of here to stay. There's a lot going on. I think, real quick, just talking about like the TCG and, the collecting aspect and whatever. We're going from yellow borders to silver borders, and we've already touched on that. And we're moving out of Sword and Shield, and we're moving into Scarlet and Violet, and just the whole world economy and everything that goes along with that. We're sort of, you know, we are just moving into such a strange timeline of this entire hobby. And I talked about on my last video that one of the things that I was telling myself I was going to do was I was going to take it really easy and not be going so heavy with my purchases and stuff like this. And oh man, that didn't really work out too well for me. I'm already finding myself spending more money in like the last week than I have in a real long time. But it's already kind of like changed my shift in there too, where what I want to do is become, way more liquid in an illiquid hobby. But what I decided to do is my mindset has already kind of changed for a little bit, and I'm just acquiring a lot more. And I've decided that I'm just for the time being now, I don't know if this is going to be a permanent thing. I don't know if this is going to be a temporary thing or what, but I'm not going to take a dime out of this hobby or just maybe a dime out of trading cards in general. That doesn't mean if I'm buying a product, I'm not going to pay my credit card or stuff like that. Obviously, I'm still going to do all that stuff. But any money that I make, I'm not going to just pull it out of the hobby. It's just going to be reinvested into the hobby. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing I'm doing right now or if that's a bad thing because, like I mentioned, the wins are here. Everything is kind of changing in this hobby. And I'm just curious at the direction, we're going to go. So one of the things I did before I made this video is I put up a poll on my channel. Under the community tab, I asked everybody, I said, are you bullish or are you bearish for Pokemon going into 2023? And I thought that I was going to get a lot of people that say that they were very bullish on Pokemon, meaning they think Pokemon's going to, continue to do what it's doing. It's going to continue to grow and all these little things that happen. And surprisingly, it wasn't really like that. I mean, there were more people that were bullish than bearish, but at the end of the day, we had close to 400 people, voted in that poll, and 60% of the people said they were bearish, and 40% of the people said they were, so sorry, 60% said they were bullish and 40% said they were bearish. So that number was actually a little bit lower than I expected for the bullishness. So maybe there's just a lot of people are kind of just, testing out the waters and seeing where they think this hobby's going to go. So, I should have like expanded on the question and, the people that are bearish, ask them, why are you so bearish on the market? Why do you think it's going to maybe stay the same or retrace or be stagnant? And then all those people that are very bullish, I should have asked them the same question. Why do you think this hobby is going to grow? Why do you think, 2023 is going to be a big year? But one of the things that came out pretty recently, and other things that's just that winds of change is coming, is thinking about like they're finally removing Ash Ketchum from the TV show. And it depends where you fall. Are you happy about that? Are you sad about that? Most people out there, probably most people that listen to this channel, watch these videos, they don't even watch the anime to begin with. So they could actually care less that, Ash Ketchum is not going to be like doing his Pokemon journey anymore. And he's not going to be like, the face of the TV show. But I don't know how, and I don't know why, but the word journey in this hobby, there's not a more elegant word that could describe like this entire hobby with except for journey, because that's what it is. And we are all kind of on our own like Pokemon journeys, if you want to call it, as cliche as that might sound, as childish as that may sound. It's the truth. We all have our own little journey because we're all going on a similar path, but it's all, drastically different. And, how do I feel about like Ash not being, the main star anymore of the TV show? Well, I don't really watch the show that much. I've definitely watched probably more than the average person, but, still less than the super fan. But when I think back on Ash, Ash is special to me, probably special to a lot of you guys that grew up in that 99 timeline because, we grew up with that TV show. And, you know, it's like it's one of those questions people always ask, that big what if. There's a lot of what if questions, and there's probably a lot of what ifs in this hobby for a lot of people. But one of that big famous what ifs for a lot of people is, what if Ash never woke up late? Because as you remember from the TV show, like, Ash wakes up late when he goes to Professor Oak's lab and he has his choice to pick Charmander, Bulbasaur, or Squirtle. All three of those Pokemon are already taken, so he's left with Pikachu. Pikachu just being like this crazy, like, untamed wild Pikachu. And the first thing he does is just, shock him. And Pikachu doesn't care for him until eventually Ash decides to sacrifice himself for Pikachu later in that episode, when you have a flock of sparrows coming down and Ash is ready to, protect Pikachu against the full brunt of that swarm of sparrows. And then Pikachu jumps up and gives him a thunderbolt and then, saves the day, and then they become best friends. But it is, and that was the story we all grew up with. And now, they're going to have a new main character and stuff like that. But, when we think of Ash, we think of Ash Ketchum from Pallet Town and the Kanto region and everything like that. And, that's special to us because we played the red and blue, and, I know you could call Ash what he is, but for most of us, he's probably like red. Say he's not or whatever. And, if you guys played gold or gold and silver, I personally played gold, but at the end of gold, after you went through all of Johto and you defeated all the gym leaders and you went through the Elite Four and you did all that stuff, at the very end of that game, you go up to the top of Mount Moon, and who's there up at the top of Mount Moon? You have Red, and his starter Pokemon, he's got the highest level Pokemon in all of gold. And you fight the Pikachu, and you fight his Venusaur, and you fight his Blastoise, and you fight his Charizard. And you, in a way, after you've defeated all of gold, you feel like you're kind of fighting yourself because you played red and blue. So that person sitting at the top of Mount Silver, the person sitting at the top of Mount Silver, in a way, is you. So I always had that special connection to those games because of those reasons and stuff like that. And I hope that with the new TV show and the new, main character, I know it's a female, and I think that's actually a great direction Pokemon's moving in. And I hope that there's a brand new generation can grow up with now this new, star of the show or new centerpiece, and, could grow and kind of grow with her now. The same way that we grew with Ash and the same way we grew with Red and stuff like this. So I think it's a good direction Pokemon's going. But it is sad. But, when you think what happened recently, Ash recently won the Pokemon World Championship. And why is that important? Well, because Ash has been doing this for 25 years. And the big joke is that Ash was never able to win the Pokemon World Championship, but he finally did. And you could always make your arguments of why is this great trainer losing to these random people? And I used to always like to think it was because he was trying to make himself a better trainer, and he wasn't always just carrying around his 6 strongest Pokemon. Charizard wasn't always there in his back pocket, meaning he was trying to just become this great trainer by mastering all different types of Pokemons, and which really brings you into, obviously we're in Gen 8 right now, but coming into Gen 9 with Scarlet and Violet and with all the starters and everything like that, him learning how to master all these Pokemon, I was always okay with him losing. But then when he finally did win the World Championship, and the World Championship, when you think about it, I don't know if you got to watch it, but the final battle in the Pokemon World Championship was Ash versus Leon. And so they had their 6 starters, and at the very end of the match, they were only left with 1 Pokemon each. Ash had his Pikachu, which is the most fitting Pokemon for Ash to ever be left with, because he's literally the ride or die Pokemon. He was his, day one, first ever Pokemon. And when he won that Pokemon World Championship, that was his only Pokemon he had left. And, standing across from Pikachu on the other side of, the battlefield or the whatever you want to call it, is Leon's strongest Pokemon, which is the Charizard. Leon's Charizard, his strongest Pokemon. When you compare the two, Pikachu is just outgunned, outmatched. But somehow Ash is able to defeat Leon's Charizard and then therefore win the world championship. So after that happened, the question was simple. Do they just start it over again? Does he just do a new region? Does he just pretend like he's not a world champion anymore? And they don't do that. So I hope that there comes a time, and hopefully not this season, but many seasons in the future, that they're able to grow this, whoever the new character is. And at some point in another 25 years, because I do think this hobby is going to be around for that long. And I hope in 25 years from now, when they do decide to cycle her out and then find a new starter, I hope she goes to the top of Mount Silver. And I hope that when she reaches the top of Mount Silver, Ash Ketchum is there and he has his 6 strongest Pokemon. And then he challenges her to the greatest battle that hasn't been written yet. And then just like when we went and we played our Silver and we played our Gold and went to the top of Mount Silver and Red was there waiting for us and he had his Pikachu and his Venusaur, Blastoise, and Charizard. I hope that it's the same thing for Ash. So I think it's pretty cool. I'm okay with things changing. But that's now going back to the real topic of this whole video is the hobby's changing in different ways. I'm already telling. I've already found out that the people I deal with on a daily basis in this hobby, whether it's the collector, whether it's the investor, whether it's a flipper, and I would say the scalper is more or less removed from this hobby. There's definitely some people that I guess are kind of scalpers, but there's not really as much meat on the bone anymore when it comes to stuff like that. But the collector, the flipper, and the investor. One thing I've noticed, and it's probably the one trend I've noticed more than anything else, is how smart some people are coming in this hobby. And there was a large influx of people, and I've talked about this kind of before in other videos, is we saw such a huge influx, late 2020, 2021, and those people have now been around for 2 years plus with all the information that's readily available at people's fingertips, stuff like this. Grading is open back up. Things in this hobby are coming way closer to anything like a norm than we've seen in a long time. And I think that is a fantastic thing for this hobby. But I'll tell you things I'm still doing today, just today. I've heard so many people say crazy things like they think, the Charizard UPC is like a flop and all this stuff. And I kind of just keep looking at it I don't think it's a flop. Just today alone, I opened up 2 more Charizard UPCs, 2 more. And that, trust me, I've opened up so many Charizard UPCs at this point, and for the sole purpose of just grading the promos. And I'm going to send these away at $15. And maybe by the time I get these back in a month or 2, because PSA turnaround times are that fast, maybe I could take a beating again. But right now, with all these Charizard UPCs, and especially at the $15, now this is the thing. A lot of the $15 tiers for these, when Charizard UPCs was originally released, we had to go back, a month or 2. A lot of people submitted them at $100 tier, $50, $30. And then some people submitted them at the 15. All those returns are more or less back. The people that submitted at the 15 waited, got 10s, even got 9s. 9s, not bad at $15 grading. Now, you can make the argument where right at release, you could have sold those cards for $35. Now people are selling them at, for in 9s between $40 and $50. Maybe they're taking a little bit of a loss there because they didn't flip it, but they're not doing that bad. But 10s are still selling for stupid premiums, especially if you get real lucky. You get, 110, 2 10s, 3 10s. Some people are doing that. You can still clean up on a product like this. The crazy thing about a Charizard UPC, the fact that I just opened 2 of them today, is I don't even value. I'm going to say this with a huge caveat. I do value it, but I don't even place value on the packs that are in there, on the coin, on the damage counters, on the dice, on the box, on the play mat, all the like the little insert, the little extra things you can sell. Obviously, packs not really being little extra things, but I'm just like gonna keep doing this, like keep doing this turning and burn until eventually, like maybe this play evaporates on me. But I'm at the point now where I can't lose. It's too late. Like, even if I somehow get these cards back after I send them away for $15 and they all come back as ungradable, I still can't lose because of how much money I've now made on all these other Charizard UPCs. So it's just funny to listen to some people. If you somehow lost money on Charizard UPCs and like you got very either A, unlucky, or B, you learned very valuable lessons on pre-grading and how important pre-grading is. Because I think the people that really got hit the hardest were people that were maybe just not as familiar enough with pre-grading as maybe they needed to be like really successful at grading cards at high dollar amounts. And I've said this, and I will continue to say this. If you are sending cards away at $100 for that real quick, like turn and burn type mentality, if you are sending these cards at $100, better bet your ass that you're a pretty good pre-grader in order to send cards away at $100. Like, that is something a lot of people like need to know. And, for the people that maybe took that hard lesson, now they do know. And if this situation ever comes up again in the future, like maybe they won't make the same mistake. But no, there's just so many little products right now that I'm just continuing to do like the little turn and burn. And I'll tell you right now, the hobby and the market is still overvaluing a lot of stuff. The thing is if you want to make money in this hobby, you have to constantly just adapt, constantly change. Like, one of the things that I've been doing is just picking up super, super cheap full art trainer cards. And when I tell you super cheap, I'm talking anything sub $5. And we're talking like waifu cards, stuff like this, things that are relatively easy grades at $15, hit a 9, your break even is $20. Or really, it's $20 with $5 shipping, and that's break even. Hit 10s, we're still talking multiple premiums. And I wonder how long it takes the market to get back to the point where people are like truly punished. But that brings into 2023. Can people be truly punished? Are there cards that people can be truly punished for? It is still to this day amazing how many 99-cent cards can be graded for $15 and still like make money. 99-cent cards, especially when you hit 10s. And this is where it's going to really come in again to pre-grading. But it also comes into, who are you buying these cards from? A lot of people say like a lot of the cards are picking up raw and stuff like that. Like, they're not really having as good luck. They're picking up some, beat up cards. They're hitting a lot of 9s, hitting a lot of 8s. If that's the case, I always will ask you, who are you buying cards from? Are you buying your raw cards from the sellers that when you look at their other listings, every single listing they have are graded cards? Stop buying from those people. You need to really start looking at the sellers that aren't grading cards. Or if they are grading cards and the cards you're picking up, you can tell they did mass box openings where, their availability on some cards can be like 20 or 10 or 15. Anybody that has 10, 15, 20 like available full art trainers or full art character rare cards, or these really super cheap cards that just takes a little bit of a grinding to make money. If they have 10, 15, 20, more likely than not, they've been doing more mass box openings and they're kind of grading like the big hits, and they're not so much worried about like the 99-cent card stuff like this. But all that's still there. And I'm amazed at how quickly the market's absorbing some of this stuff. And I don't know, maybe eventually it comes to an end, and maybe 2023 is the year of reckoning. And it's funny that Z and G and Cam, those guys, always say they're saying never punished. And I think I would be interested for those of you who do feel like you have been punished in this hobby. And I would like to know what your plays were. And I've mentioned it before. Some of the plays that I can see where you can definitely get hurt is when you bought, graded cards and you especially paid a premium, paid all-time highs, whether it's tens. And if you're touching anything that's modern, at this point, you should all know how I feel about modern tens. In my opinion, for modern tens, you should never be buying modern tens. You should always be selling modern tens, meaning you should always be picking up those modern cards raw and grading them yourself. Especially if you do believe that you want to be a collector, you want those modern cards for your personal collection. You should not be picking them up already graded, especially cards that are going to continue for at least the near term, have their pop reports continuing to go up drastically. And when we're talking drastically, we're talking increases of hundreds to thousands. There's so many cards. Like I just told you, I opened up 2 more Charizard UPCs today. That's 6 cards. You got 2 of each of the Charizards. You got the Charizard V, you got the V Max, and the V Star. Each one of those cards, the pop report, when everything is all said and done, it's going to be pretty close. I'm not going to say like it's going to be a 1-to-1, but it's going to be pretty dang close to what we're seeing with like the Charizard V promo from Champions Path. And I think that card's up, and you don't quote me on this, but I think it's like 67,000 or something of those cards have been graded. Just an absolutely stupid amount of those cards are graded. And that is a card that is just, the market is just crazy oversaturated. And it's funny too. That card, I wouldn't say it's hit a bottom or a floor, but when you look, I'm sure right now there's probably an auction that is ending in the next 30 seconds, and one of those cards is ending, and I'm sure it probably still is selling for still $30 when you add in shipping, $25, $30. It's amazing when you look at how many sales of that card exist per day. And if anybody ever asked me, like, show me one glaring example of just the strength of this market, you could show them that card and say, this is how many sales of this card were this month in a PSA 10. This is the average price they sold at, and this is how many of those cards sold. If you saw that, people would be like, oh my God, so many of these cards have sold. But it's funny, like a card like that, where if people were patient and they said, you know what, I still want one of those Charizard V from Champions Path. I want one of those in a 10 for my personal collection. I'm kind of at the point where I'm just like, you could just go out and buy one. Like, now's the time. If you want it as a personal, part of your collection, because you collect Charizard 10s and you just want that card, I would just say, go ahead. Now's your time. That card raw in the pack is $10. Grading fees is $15, and probably grading for PSA will drop eventually, but it'll be like probably never drop below 10 in my opinion. So even if grading drops below 10, you still into that card for $20. Pay $25, just get it done. The convenience fee, or pay $30, get that card. It's funny. Like eventually cards just get low enough where I talk about it like it's just a convenience fee. And I don't know what the bottom of the floor that a card is like. Does that card in a 10 ever get below grading cost? Does it get below $15? Maybe. But then my question just becomes for the person grading that card, like, that's one of those cards you just kind of can move at, a Collect-A-Con or something like that. Just like it's just amazing how liquid a card like that is. People might look at the prices and say it's not a liquid card, but it's like, no, when the market's strong enough. And then I feel the same way about like these Charizard UPCs. And I think eventually there'll come a time too where these Charizard UPCs, where right now I think there is absolutely no sealed product play, in my opinion. I think the market is just too irrational right now when it comes to those cards. I think the market is too liquid for cards like that. I think the market is too forgiving for cards like that right in the meantime. But in the long term, I think they'll then become buying opportunities again when that will become a sealed product play. And that's just the thing about like changing, adapting, going with the hobby, seeing where we at today versus where do you think we're going to be at tomorrow and stuff like that. It's just little plays. And I think people will hear me talk about like super modern stuff, super, mass reduced stuff. And they'll say, well, why do you always talk about this stuff? Why don't you talk about your more niche plays? Why don't you talk about like, some of the more grinding stuff you do? Well, if I'm going out and I'm watching auctions and I pick up some prime card or something that I think is relatively near mint card, something that I think is going to hit an 8 or 9 or potentially get super lucky and get a 10, and you pick up that card between $10 and $15, spend $15 to grade it, be into that for $30. Like, sure, I could talk about those plays and those little plays, but the problem is with something like that is they're not easily replicable. And if you can like repeat them, sorry, not easily repeatable, but if you can repeat them, like, it's going to take a lot of time. So the things I talk about, these super mass produced, super modern plays, is because they're easy to talk to on like a very broad range, and it's easy to talk about these big plays because more likely than not, we can't affect the market too much. But then again, maybe we could. One of the things I was very correct about when I talked about the Charizard UPC, going back, you can go back like lives ago. I said, in my opinion, I thought a card like that was going to be the fastest race to the bottom we have ever seen on a card. And I think now that history and time has kind of played out a little bit, I think it is very apparent that a card like that did have that. It did have the fastest race to the bottom of a card we ever saw. There were other cards that I expected the race to the bottom to be faster than they were, but they were actually slower than they were. And a perfect example is like the Special Livery Charizard, another super mass produced, readily available card. The race to the bottom on the Special Livery Charizard was way slower than I expected. And the amount of those cards graded were way lower than I expected. But in my opinion, when I look at a card like that, so now what I do is I look at a card like Special Delivery Charizard, and I try to analyze, why did that card not play out exactly the way I expected? And the way I expected, like I said, is mass grading, absolute race to the bottom, stuff like this. The reason why I don't think that card played out the way I expected was because I expected everybody to be purchasing that card the exact same way I was purchasing that card. And hopefully the exact same way you were purchasing that card. Because the way I was purchasing a card like that and the way I was talking about that card on every single video I can make is buying up the codes, buying my $20 like clockwork every 8 days, buying it again, especially at the beginning, being right before they actually changed that, where like the 8-day timeline, you could do multiple of them, and just buying as many and then sending it to every single address of every single person that I knew I could get away with sending those, changing up, like the shipping addresses and stuff like that, because of all that worked. I told you, send it to your mom's house, send it to your sibling's house, send it to your friend's house, send it to your friend that you kind of talk to that still doesn't mind if you send stuff. If you have a home address, send it to your home address. If you also have a PO, send it to your PO box. Like, just, if you're talking, you can buy 8 of those a week. And how many weeks have those now been available for? And you do that multiplier of 8 times whatever. And then some people were definitely still picking them up raw in the secondary market and doing stuff like that. Like me personally, I wasn't going that route. I was never picking those cards up raw, but there were so many people doing, or at least I thought in my head, everybody's doing that. But I think what we're going to find out, and I think the way that a card like that, like timelines will play out, is we'll find out that a lot of people just picked up maybe their one, or maybe their one every 8 days or whatever. And maybe some days they forgot to, do another $20 purchase and like add the code and stuff like that. So they ended up, after all these weeks of that card being available, which at this point now, it might as well be an eternity for a card like that. How long that card has now been available on Pokemon Center is an eternity, right? Like, that's how you got to look at a card like that. It had such a long period of time that it was available. And you will find that people only picked up like 1, 2, 3, 4. So because I was doing it one way and picking up as many, what I'm coming to find out, what I'm coming to the realization is I just don't think everybody was doing that. So when I went into a card like that with that mindset of it's going to have this crazy, crazy race to a bottom, and everybody like is just going to have like a rocket strapped to their back and they're going to be facing the wrong way. It's going to be like Wile E. Coyote going off the cliff, with the rocket on his back, but he goes straight down instead of going straight up. That's how I thought a card like that was going to play out. And I just think history will prove me wrong with that. But now, when you look at a card like that, I think there will be people, a year from now or 2 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever the timeline that plays out. And when they look back on a card like that, I think people are going to sit around and they're going to say, you know what? That play was so glaringly obvious and I didn't take advantage of it. And I don't know why I didn't take advantage of it. I don't know why I didn't buy all the codes I could. And I didn't just keep buying all these things. Like, I think people will look back on it and they'll say, I never understood why I didn't just take as strong of, take advantage of something. Because I feel like Pokemon just went like this with their hands. They were like, you know what? Here's your reward. Thank you for 2020. Thank you for 2021. Like, here's your reward. This is a card that is selling for more than it cost. Like, meaning, how do I phrase this? You buy that card, you pay your $5, you get your code, you spend the $20 on Pokemon Center, you're into it for $25, and you could immediately get that card and just sell it for greater than $25. And the 3-pack blister and the 2 packs or whatever you decide to buy off Pokemon, that is just free. They gave it to you for free. And at least from the day it was released to today, at the time of recording this video, it was impossible to lose money on a Charizard, impossible to lose money on a special delivery Charizard. There cannot exist one person out there who got the special delivery Charizard and lost money. The only person out there who could have lost money on that card, in theory, is that guy that bought my 10 for $625. The guy who bought Dan Ketchum All Collectibles 10 graded for greater than $600. Those people, I'm sure, lost money. But anybody else out there, that card was actually impossible to lose money on, with the exception if you bought that card already graded, but then you're not listening to everything else I said. You should never be buying modern 10s. You should always be selling 10s. And then now this is a question. Right now, Pokemon, and at the time recording this video, you got about 14 days or whatever to redeem your codes, 2 more weeks. I've talked about that card on so many lives, and come December 31st, Pokemon has now said, we are no longer going to be allowing that code. Come January 1st, you're not going to be able to redeem it. This will be the crazy thing. Come January 1st, you'll probably start to see the price of that card increase, which is, I know how ridiculous that sounds because how many of those are going to be out there and stuff like that. But you'll probably watch the market just be extremely irrational, and the price of that card will actually start to go up because then people will no longer like have them anymore, and it'll just be. And I'm talking the raw cards. I don't know what the graded ones are going to look like. Probably come January 1st, like, because the graded cards will still be coming back. That will probably like go down in price, but like the raw ones will probably continue to like go up after December 31st, which will be the most ridiculous thing. And we've already talked about this. Right now, I will not be holding on to any special delivery Charizard codes come December 31st. But if come January 1st, those special delivery Charizard codes are still redeemable, I will just go on eBay and I will buy more of those special delivery Charizard codes and I'll redeem more of those. But right now, as when December 31st hits, I will have hopefully used all mine. And if I have any that I'm still sitting on for whatever reason, I'll probably just give them away to you guys on the channel if for whatever reason, like I run out of addresses to send stuff to. But I wonder how many people look back on that card and just like think about it as being a missed opportunity or whatnot. Like, I'm curious. And I'm curious if there's anybody in this chat that think they might have lost money on that card. It's impossible. You can go on eBay right now and just look at that sealed card. And the play for that card is simple. If you don't know what that play is, I'm going to tell you. If you think that card's going to grade a 9 or higher, send it to PSA at $15. If you think it's going to grade an 8 or lower, because you can mainly, the only way you're really going to be able to tell super easy is just looking at that centering. Don't destroy the card, but you can move around the back and stuff, and you can just look at the front. Is it extremely off center? Do you think it's going to grade an 8? then sell that card raw. It's simple. It's a raw play and it's a graded play. There's very few cards out there that are as obvious raw plays and graded plays. Like, it's both. That card is two things. It is a raw and graded play. If it's super off center, trust me, sell it raw, because you just make your couple bucks there. If you think it's a, well-centered card, send it away. Get your 9. Sure. After $15, you're probably going to be looking to sell that card between $50 and $65 right now. You're still going to make money. And if you hit the freaking 10 on that card, you're going to do super well. And that is a card that I can't stress enough was free. And come January 1st, somebody will make a video talking about how these Charizards are no longer available. And somebody's going to have the freaking nerve to say, I can't believe people weren't talking more about these cards. Why didn't people tell people to buy these cards more? And I know that video will come out. I don't know who will make it yet, but I'm sure there will exist a video out there where people are like, I can't believe nobody was talking about the Charizards, when I've gone on my way on every single video and now gone on my way to rant now for however many minutes talking about this card. And people will still say, yep, guess the special delivery Charizards were sleeping on everybody. Nobody expected this to happen, and just be like, oh God, I'll just puke in my mouth a little bit. But whatever. At this point, hopefully, I have gone out of my way to let you guys know that I think you should be acquiring special delivery Charizards. And the worst case scenario is those things go to like 0, I guess. And I get 0 in this hobby, nothing really goes to 0, but like whatever. That card goes to $5 or whatever. It was free. Even at $5, you break even with how much that code costs you to buy on eBay. If it goes to $10, you still doubled the amount of money, because all that product you got from Pokemon Center, like, you still paid for the product, so you got the product. It was a simple no-brainer. And how much money has already been made on that special delivery Charizard? It would be so hard. If you lost money on that special delivery Charizard, please, in the chat, let me know. And please let me know, how did you lose money on it? How? And if you tell me you bought a 10, then thoughts and prayers go out to you. And either this channel is not for you because you're not listening, or maybe this channel is for you because now you'll start listening and you'll understand. I don't know. Anyways, I'm off my soapbox now. If you guys actually made it for this long in the video, sorry about that. But I'm scrolled up to the top of the chat. Time to answer some questions if there are any. I see we got Skippy FX in the chat. Good to see you, bud. Skippy said, PK, are you going to Orlando? I'd love to have a card signed if you're cool with it. So I wasn't planning on going to Orlando. And then I was sort of flip-flopping if I want to go and stuff like that. And then for whatever reason, Collecticon really was dragging their feet. I didn't book a hotel room. I didn't book a flight. I didn't do any of that stuff. So I decided to pass on Orlando. The Collecticon I do plan on going this year is Charlotte. And I have a feeling that Charlotte will probably be one, if not the biggest Collecticon. It's way too early to say that, but it's probably, it's possible that Denver, because Swami's there and stuff like that, Denver might be another big one. But my only fear is that people might have to decide to make the decision to go to Charlotte or go to Denver, because they look like they're like a week or two apart. They're super close. There's not much time in between. Yeah, Denver has like Stevie Aoki going. He's going to be DJing there and stuff like that. But personally, I don't care if Steve Aoki is DJing. Like, that's not my cup of tea. So I'm just going to go to Charlotte. Probably a lot of other people are going to be going to Charlotte, or probably going to have to make hard decisions. Do they want to go to Denver? Do they want to go to Charlotte? Some people maybe go to both, but that's what I'm going to go. So that will be the Collecticon I go to this year. And I think there will be some bigger names potentially going to Charlotte too. I'm already starting to plant the seeds with some of these guys, and hopefully they do decide to go. Zard Hunter said, new year, so many new collectors will be joining the hobby with a new gen around the corner. And yeah, I hope these new collectors join, and I hope these new collectors have that same sort of they could start their own Pokemon journey and they can make it special, just like Ash and Red was really special to us. I hope with this new gen of collector and this new gen of trainers and stuff like that, because when you think of Ash and you think about, the two people he met, and he met Brock and then he met Misty and stuff like that, and then all the adventures they went on together and part of that journey. Yeah, I hope that, there's some new collector who has even played his first game, opened up his first pack yet. I hope they experience that. And when I think about like the yellow borders and the silver borders, I forget who talked about it. This is not original thought of mine. This is what I heard from somebody else, but they said it'll be interesting to see what happens, 10 or 20 years from now. People might look back on yellow border cards and say, and just look at it as like a definitive like timeline, like a line drawn in the sand where yellow borders are old. Anything with silver borders are new. And this could be 20 years from now, 10 years from now. And we can just now have like this real definitive timeline drawn now in the sand where everybody's just going to be like, oh yeah, yellow border cards, all those are just old. And if that day comes, I think it will be fascinating. If 25 years from now, everybody just is looking at, this sword and shield block and they go, oh wow, yeah, that's battle styles. That's a yellow bordered card. Like those are rare. Those are old. You don't see battle styles coming around anymore. Chilling Rain or Fusion Strike, or wow, that's Evolving Skies. I've heard about that set, or Brilliant Stars or Fusion Strike and all this stuff. And because it has a yellow board, and it'll be interesting to see how the future generations of this hobby, refer to those. And maybe there'll come a day where some of these new collectors, they'll like their silver borders, and because that's what they'll grow up with. But then they'll look at these yellow borders with like, wow, like that's cool. I wasn't around during the yellow border timeline. And if that happens, that's a great thing. You want to know why that's a great thing? Because that means this hobby continued to like survive and continued to flourish. And I've talked about it before. This hobby is multi-generational. No question at this point. It's multi-generational. My kids will love this hobby. And I've always already talked about this on our lives. My kids will love this hobby, whether they want to or not. They don't have a choice. Like I've talked about it. Some parents, their kids, grow up to resent them because they make them play sports and do all this stuff. My kids will probably grow up to resent me because I'll make them collect Pokemon cards at a very high level. It is what it is. John Doe said, winds are changing to Scarlet and Violet Air, silver borders, and MSRP raise. Yeah, and MSRP raise is that it's interesting. And I've talked about it before, and a lot of it comes to price memory and stuff like that. And the days of $100 booster boxes may be a thing of the past. Maybe. I don't know. We could always see like hard dips in the market, hard downturns. But if that $100 booster box is a thing of the past because now MSRP, from distributors gets close to that $95, $100 mark, because right now, like a lot of people are paying $86.50. So at, whatever the MSRP price increases, like that might be a thing of the past, or people are taking losses at selling at $100. That price memory might be like a detriment for a lot of people going forward. And maybe, I think, so right now, booster box price, and bear with me, I hate saying MSRP for a booster box is $143 because trust me, there's no MSRP for booster box prices. I don't freaking care if you quote Pokemon Center. I don't care if you tell me that's what you think. There's no such thing as MSRP for booster boxes. But just for this argument, I'll give you that. 143 on Pokemon Center. If MSRP becomes like whatever, 163, that is a huge price increase. That is a huge mental barrier for a lot of people to get over, especially with just normal inflation in general. Just everything you go out, just go buy a carton of eggs, gallon of milk, stuff like that. Just everything in life in general is just more money. It's actually pretty crazy. Doodles in the Membrane said, honestly, as much as I might not like the change, I'm glad Pokemon is a company that's taken those changes. Changes is needed for growth. Doodles in the Membrane, that is a great comment. You are correct. Change is needed. And sometimes people could be hesitant to change, but sometimes you have to hit the reset button too. And the reset button could actually be one of the hardest things. Sometimes reset buttons could like destroy hobbies. But if Pokemon can do that and really truly hit the reset button, which they may be doing with Scarlet and Violet, we don't know that. But only reason we can say maybe they're hitting the reset button is because we're kind of looking at these EX cards. And yes, people are getting over the semantics of it's a lowercase EX when the last ones are EXs. And then you got to go back to the lowercase EXs, even though we've seen. Please, I don't care. Trust me. I'm into Pokemon more than the average person, and I could care less, lowercase EX, uppercase EX, but whatever. The cards we've seen released, they're nice, they're fun, but they're nothing crazy yet. And I've already mentioned this, that it's possible that Pokemon could just not have the leaks that they normally have, and that whatever full art cards come out, secret rares come out, just blow our socks off. And we're just like all left flabbergasted, like, oh my God, I can't believe what Pokemon was just able to pump out. These are the most amazing cards I've ever seen in my entire life, Scarlet, Violet, and the crazy block is just going to be fantastic. But right now, as we stand today, we haven't seen that. So that could bring up if Pokemon's maybe hitting the reset button. And if they're hitting the reset button, weak hobbies cannot hit reset buttons. But if Pokemon is strong enough to hit a reset button, wow, that means the future for Pokemon is exponential from this point. And one of the things about Pokemon, especially when you look at Pokemon from an investability side, you need Pokemon to truly stay investable is to get people to continuously be added to this hobby, meaning you need the new collector to continuously being funneled into this hobby. And I've seen it. I've seen on the comment section, I've seen people who are watching this video, people were talking, I've seen comments like, oh, YouTube views are down and stuff like that. People aren't watching as much Pokemon content. People aren't engaging as much. I have not noticed that. My viewers, I've never, like month after month, I'm getting the highest views I've ever got on my channels. My subscriber count is growing at a rate that it's never grown. Month to month, I'm having more subscribers than I have at any point ever in this entire hobby, and way more views. Sure, I'm putting out a little bit more content and stuff like this, but I think the reason why is because I'm just enjoying it that much more. And you would say, well, why are you enjoying it that much more? I'm enjoying it that much more is because right now with this hobby, the way it is, you could take a breath for the first time in what feels like forever. It's been so long in this hobby, you can kind of just sit back and just go and just not have like, all this news coming out every day and all these crazy sets and all the speculation. And we still do it and we will continue to do it now until forever. But like we have this timeline now at the end of December 2022, and then we're going to have Crown Zenith coming out in January, and then March 31st, which is the end of March, might as well be April. And then we're going to see Scarlet and Violet. We have this long month timeline where it's just kind of just a relaxing, calming moment. I do expect to just see reprints coming out the wazoo, and just we're going to see everything. And if you think it could be reprinted, I think the timeline is the next 3 months. I'm surprised we haven't already seen like more reprint news. I think January, February, all of March is just going to be chock full of every single Sword and Shield era product. And I think the big factor of that is after this first quarter of 2023, all Sword and Shield products will never get reprinted again because of that MSRP price increase. And I talked about it. I think Pokemon understands that they can't raise the MSRP prices because you already have people sitting on things like Brilliant Stars and Fusion Strike that aren't really, or not Brilliant Stars, Battle Styles and Chill and Rain and Fusion Strike and these sets, they're not really moving. So to now make people buy more of this stuff to increase the MSRP price, especially people with distributors, like it would really cripple those people. So I think we have 1 quarter to see reprints. And come March 31st, when Scarlet and Violet is released, you'll never see another Sword and Shield product reprinted ever again, in my opinion. That does not mean you won't see Sword and Shield products trickling out into, V collection boxes and tins and all that as individual packs. That's not what I mean. I'm talking like major reprints. I'm talking booster boxes, ETBs, the whole shebang, available at distribution, like waves, stuff like that. That's my opinion. We'll see what happens. And then if that's the case, though, that brings Scarlet and Violet. So now I just told you, I don't think after March 31st because of just MSRP price increases that we'll see any Sword and Shield product reprinted. That means Scarlet and Violet, if Pokemon printers are still going burr mode, which we feel that they are still doing that in the background right now, at the time of recording this video, I don't care at what point of what day and what second of any day you're watching this video, there's probably a Pokemon printer going, just churning right now. As we speak, it's in the background, just spitting out sheets of cards right now. And if that's the case, and Pokemon's still printing, and they're not able to print any Sword and Shield stuff, they're only printing Scarlet and Violet, there could be a potential that come, March 31st to whenever, we can see so much of just one set because Pokemon at this point will now be, in a way, handcuffed that they won't be able to print anything else. Or, the first set is Scarlet and Violet, whatever the second set is, third set, maybe all that stuff is just going to get, fast tracked to the Pokemon printers and stuff like that. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like full print capabilities from Pokemon with nothing else that they can print. Because right now, at least when the market, cools off for something, like they could just flip their switch and print something else, whether it's Shining Fates or Brilliant Stars or Evolving Skies, or, they're not going to turn on the Celebrations reprint, but their Charizard UPCs and whatever else they're printing at just crazy capabilities. So Skippy FX said, the big sales on sealed is a constant temptation. Yeah, there was a lot of Black Friday sales that were definitely constant temptations. And there's, the argument is what's like a comfortable price for Pokemon packs? If you could pick up Pokemon packs for like $2, that's a good price. Like, I feel really comfortable. I've seen some fire sales where after you cannibalize down products because, they were like big sales, one of the ones that goes like, I call them the Verizon wireless V boxes. I don't really even know the Pokemon's real name because I've called it the Verizon wireless V box so much, or like the Electrode V boxes. I've seen some of those selling by the case. And when you cannibalize everything down, the packs get down to like $2 a piece. And I'm like, $2 a piece. That's pretty nice. But then when packs get that low, they start to sell pretty quickly. So it is amazing, even on the worst products, if prices get low enough, like the demand in the market is still able to eat up a lot of this stuff. I don't know how much of that's like pack breakers and stuff like that, but when you talk about $2 a pack, that's $72 for a booster box. When you think about it, if you take, if you're assuming you're now going to have, it's not an actual booster box. Everybody loves their little cellophane wrap around that booster box, but it's still 36 packs for $72. $72 for any set is a attractive price point for me, especially how strong this market is still. Seth Dudley said, it's hard to not be bearish when you constantly see things like majority of CEOs / analysis are predicting a major recession. Yeah, I think we're already kind of in a recession in a way. But then again, as hard as this economy is being hit, as hard as like the S&P is being hit, and the crypto market and the Pokemon market, if you want to say it's been hit, which I think the Pokemon market is still really strong, but whatever, or the Magic market and all this stuff. But then you try going to your local Target or Walmart or your local mall or your whatever on a Saturday before Christmas. Like, we had to go get my dog's nails clipped today. So I had to go to PetSmart and looked at the Target parking lot. It was just a madhouse. And Target has one of the biggest parking lots around, and every single spot is full. I looked at that parking lot. I said, well, wow, if we're in a recession, like, there's still a lot of money out there, unless everybody's just going into crazy debt now. And now we're just going to see credit card debt just skyrocket through the roof, which is also possible. But if that's the case, you should definitely be selling some of your Pokemon cards, freeing up that cash flow. You definitely is not a good time to be holding credit card debt. And there's never a good time to hold credit card debt, in my opinion. Again, not financial advice. Do what's best for you, but you should never be doing that to begin with. Professor Birch says, I've been collecting all the cards that have Ash and Pikachu in them. That's not a lot in the hobby if you look at it as a whole. Everyone focuses on Charizard, but Ash and Pikachu was the beginning. So There are no cards with Ash and Pikachu, with the exception of like Topps cards. So if you've been going after Topps cards, Ash and Pikachu, yes. But if you're talking about like the Pokemon TCG, like, yeah, you have like the Cosmic Eclipse, but that's Red and Pikachu. Or if you look at the Japanese 20th anniversary, that's Red and Pikachu. There is really no Ash and Pikachu. Yes, we have seen like Ash's name on some products, like I think about like the Ash's Green Ninja box and stuff like that. You know, those boxes where just a million of those are available at Walmart for so long, like boxes like that. But, and then you have Ash's Green Ninja is the name of that Green Ninja card, but Ash is not on that card. And then even on some of the newer cards, it's Red, it's not Ash. But if you're picking up those cards, like, I always love those cards. I've always loved those cards. And that's all I could say. Now, the Topps cards, take it or leave it for me. But let's see. John Doe says, I recently had to grab a Reds Pikachu Japanese promo. Great looking full holo card. Yeah. And I'd say Japanese Reds Pikachus, maybe there's a million of them that exist raw. There's a lot of them. And that's one of those cards that is the easiest card that I've ever personally graded. Those have the highest gem mint 10 rate of any card that I've personally graded. I will go on a limb and say it's probably greater than 90% 10 rate, maybe 85% 10 rate. That is an extremely easy card to grade. The market, even with, I told you, maybe a million of those cards exist raw, those cards are still selling for like $100, which is crazy when you think about it. That is a card that the market has been able to absorb so many of those cards. And you hear me, I've been quoting PSA 10 prices a lot lately and talking about PSA. Hopefully you guys are not grading cards with CGC. And if you are grading cards with CGC, you're making good plays and you're like able to get 9.5s and stuff like that. When maybe some cards you can get premiums over 9s, but you're just leaving, in my opinion, so much money on the table when the 10s are so easy to get right now at PSA. That's just my opinion. And at the end of the day, you got to do what you feel is best for you. But what I feel is best for you is send your cards to PSA right now, especially at $15, especially with between 1 and 2 month turnaround times on bulk, which is freaking bananas. We're still technically in 2022. And we're seeing month turnaround times on bulk for some people. Some people are not. I don't know how PSA is first in, first graded. That's not a thing. I don't know how PSA decides to grade cards at the, why some people's get like express graded, stuff like that. I have no freaking clue why, but it's a good time for grading. It's a good time for this market, especially those low dollar amount stuff, especially picking up stuff raw too. There's just not a lot of eyes on some of these cards where I feel like I had a lot of competition, especially like auctions and stuff like that. Right now, I haven't seen a lot of, competition on auctions. There's a little bit of it out there, but I think I'm seeing so much garbage in auction too, that I think that for people to go after eBay, like auctions and stuff right now, I feel like maybe some people are just getting burned out because of how daunting it is, because you have to go through so much trash listings on eBay. You know how many like, it's just it's the normal garbage stuff. Like stuff are extremely overpriced. They have zero bids. The cards are listed at starting auction prices greater than most buy it now prices. Like you could have a card where the buy it now is $30 and they have it listed as an auction starting at $49.99 with $5.60 shipping or whatever. And it's just like, that's a lot of garbage you just have to cycle through. So I understand where a lot of people are probably just getting overwhelmed with doing the eBay auction route over and over again, but they're still out there. Let's see. John Doe said, since when did Pokemon Center, Pokemon Go ETBs go out of stock? John, I could not tell you. I got my 4 Pokemon Center or Pokemon Go ETBs like right when they went up for pre-order. And that was the first and last Pokemon Go ETBs I may ever own. That's it. I bought my 4 and I was done. And then I picked up one of the Pikachu tins, like the Pikachu Go tins that come with the 4 packs, because I have my own pack collections. Like I have a lot of like real weird random one-off like collections, like pack art collection, stuff like that. And because Pokemon Go just had the one single or pack art, I was able to just buy that one tin. I never even opened up a single one of those packs. I still also own the other 3 of those Pokemon Go packs sealed. Pokemon Go, it just doesn't do it for me. It was never a set that I was excited about. It's a set I'm still not excited about. Pokemon Go for me is just a pass. And maybe Pokemon Go will be the best set ever financially, and we'll go through the roofs and it'll be $1 billion ETB one day. I don't care. I'm okay with passing on some stuff. That is one of the sets I'm just personally passing on. There's just too much other stuff going on that I feel better about. Let's see. Let's see. We got a bunch of people in here. We got Alex said at PK. What do you mean I'm not supposed to pay out the wazoo for Black Label Moonbryons? Hey. I'll tell you what, I've never sent a card to Beckett. I've always thought about it, but I just hated Beckett's website for so long because I can never find Beckett's pop report. Beckett was just never for me. But my God, I'll tell you what, the people out there that are doing that Moonbryon play, they are sending it to Beckett. They are hitting the Black Label, because we do know, because of the pop report, for that one person out there that was actually able to find the Beckett pop report, the Moonbryon at Beckett has about a 5% Black Label rate, which when you have an 80% gem mint 10 rate, whatever. I'm going to go with the 80% gem mint rate from PSA and not the 5% Black Label rate at Beckett. But the people that did do that, the people that did get lucky, yeah, those Moonbryons are selling for like close to a 2x what they're selling for in a PSA 10. Hey, for those guys, good for you. I'm just not about that life. Sorry. Let's see. Noah says, I think the hobby may mature over time in the sense that, one, people's earnings will grow as they get older and have more money to put into the hobby. The people grew up in the original boom. He said, have not hit their max earning potential yet. And 2, people will move into obscure and lesser known segments of the hobby, including Japanese promos, for example. How many people? So Navy 7 is his name. Navy 7, I agree with you. That's something I've talked about in the past. When you talk about people moving into their income earning areas, you got to look at like that real early 99 generation, because, for most people, you grow up, you get out of Pokemon, then you go to high school and you go to college. And then when you graduate college, you're in your 20s and you're just establishing yourself in your career. And, you're figuring out what do you want to do, and you're not making like the most amount of money. And then as you hit your 30s, what happens in your 30s is you're now established usually in your career. So what you will find happens between your 30s and your 40s is you're now going to like go up the corporate ladder at the fastest pace you have ever done. Meaning, your roles will change constantly. You're going to be bringing on, more responsibility, stuff like that, because you are now a more senior person. But when you bring on more responsibilities, you're also going to bring on more money. And then hopefully by the time you hit your 40s and 50s, you are at your absolute, cap, your highest possible income earning, but you're not going to see that career progression as rapidly usually. So most of that 99 generation, we are within that 30 to 40 year timeline where we're rapidly going up that corporate ladder. We're starting to make a ton of money and coming into income earning. And that is important. And, becoming more or less debt free. Hopefully people are moving in the right direction. And I always say like this, hopefully you are making more money at 35 than you were at 25. And hopefully you're making more at 45 than you were at 35. And then hopefully when you hit 55 and you're getting close to retirement, hopefully when you hit that 55, year mark, you're making substantially more than you were when you were 25. If you're making substantially less than you were when you're 25 at 55, you may or may not have made the wrong choice, or you may or may not have invested in the wrong Pokemon product. But no, I think that's a Navy 7. That was a great comment though. So Paper Plane says, I bought 2 cases of Silver Tempest and 10 V-Star Universe booster boxes as an investment, holding long term. Hey, man, as long as your price points were low. V-Star Universe might be a little bit of a dangerous thing if you bought at a super high price, because we already seen that V-Star Universes, like, prices were pretty hard to shop around, get low prices, unless you had like a good in Japan and you're able to pick it up pretty close to that like $40 MSRP price in Japan. And yes, it's their yen, but whatever, like conversion over the USD. And then, you get lucky and you start to see like what VMAX Climax was selling for, like at a low of $60. And they're still high class sets, V-Star Universe, VMAX Climax, saw VMAX Climax on, because keep in mind, anytime you're buying Japanese product, in North America or wherever you are, assuming you're not in Japan, it's the secondary market prices. So really this lowest we saw secondary market prices was like that $60 per booster box price. Hopefully V-Star Universe doesn't hit that low if you are paying like 100, 110, 120. But if I had to take a guess, me personally, I would say that yes, V-Star Universe is going to go down in price. I think the problem is V-Star Universe right now, it just happens to be the most shiny, newest thing. And the shiny, newest thing, and one thing the market has proved time after time after time, and will probably continue to prove time after time after time, is people just overpay for the shiniest, newest thing. And we've seen that like without any more glaring examples than like the graded modern market, especially in tens for a lot of products. And you can go through a lot of different sets and look at whatever the very first PSA 10 sale of graded cards sell for. And they always, not always, but more times than not, always sell at like an all-time high. So people do that though. We got Rattle Pokemon in the chat. So I am going to be wrapping up this chat in a little while. I don't know if I'm going to go look at Rattle's Discord right now, but in Rattle's Discord, he has a happy hour. So there's a bunch of people in Rattle's happy hour right now. If any of you guys want to chat after this live and just actually chat, voice to voice, I am going to happen to Rattle's Discord chat immediately after this live. So I'm inviting all you guys to join, especially if you're not in Rattle's Discord. You should probably just be in Rattle's Discord anyways. So if you could do me a favor, just drop a link for Rattle's Discord down in the chat. And yeah, we could all just go there. We'll hang out for a little while. Hopefully everybody else stays around in that happy hour for a little while. But yeah, you could chat to me, you could chat to Rattle, and just, if you got any questions you want to ask, or if you want to just talk about life, I don't care. I got nothing but time tonight. So I am going to start. Oh, baby, I just hopped down to the bottom of the chat. Sorry, I just scrolled up to a random place. So John Doe says, yeah, he's got a stack of special delivery Charizard with those Arceus V boxes, which are moving up as well in price. Yeah. Chug says it's hard to make good plays right now because everyone is looking for that good play. Just make the plays you like and want. And if you're right, then awesome. If not, then you still have what you like. That end of that comment is fantastic. If the plays don't play out for you, he's right. You still have what you like. And that's great. Alex says, what's in that cup, PK? Don't worry what's in that cup. And it's not a cup. I've already talked about it. This is a goblet. We refer to this as the goblet on this channel, not a cup. I know some people were asking like when the next live is going to be between myself, CTR, and Rattle. And that next live will be on December 23rd. So tune in for that. It's going to be fun. It might be like a little bit more of like a holiday type episode. Maybe we'll play some games. Who knows? I think it's just going to be fun. Between the Ropes says, thank you, PK. I love you. Thanks, man. I think you're the first person to ever say you love me. Most people say they hate me. So Kate Lee say, hey, PK, just want to let you know how much I appreciate your streams and letting us know good moves to make in the hobby right now. No problem, man. I'm just kind of, I just like talking Pokemon. That's all it comes down to. Sometimes plays are going to play out, sometimes plays are not. And right now, the hobby is just super forgiving. It's really hard to make bad plays in this hobby unless you are buying modern tents. That's like a one way to really get hurt. Or if you're buying sealed product at inflated prices, meaning you're not waiting for lows, stuff like that. And I talked about it before, if you bought Shining Fates at 120 per ETB, if you bought Vivid Voltage at 220, if you bought Battle Styles on PokemonCenter.com for 143, if you bought Chill and Rain on PokemonCenter.com for 143, yes, if you do those plays, you're gonna have a bad time. If you guys are South Park friends or South Park fans, you could either pizza or you French fry. If you pizza when you should have French fried, you're gonna have a bad time. And some people do that. But if you're not doing that, then you're fine. So Kaylee said, how do you feel the retirement of Ash and seemingly Pikachu in the anime will affect this hobby? I think Pikachu's too strong to go anywhere. You could find a grandparent who still says, oh, you like them Pokemon, but they still know what Pikachu is. Even though they call Pokemon even though they call Pokemon Pokemon, they still know Pikachu is. Pikachu is just too strong of a mascot. And I'm sure we won't see Pikachu as a character go away completely. Zachary says, I have 3 kiddos, grade school age, and makes him so happy to see them naturally into the journey. Show and collecting cards. PK, what do you think our kiddos will do if the LGSs stop hosting? I don't know, man. Right now, there's a good chance that our kids just move to like playing the card game online, whether it's on their tablets or on their phones in the future and stuff like that, because it's easier too. But hopefully that LGS model with that in-game or in-person gameplay, that hopefully that never goes away. And if you guys have never played before, I just recommend you going on Google and just typing in, try to find a local game. And even if you don't want to play, just maybe stop in one night, like find out what time people are playing, go in, support your local LGS. Yeah, you might pay a little extra for a pack, but just walk around and see if it's something maybe you'll want to do. Or if you've never played the game in the first place, I've already talked about it. The mobile version's now available in the App Store on iOS and stuff like that. Probably all you guys have opened up packs. You're probably all sitting on 1 million code cards unless you're selling your code cards, but most people don't even take the time to make a couple cents per code card. If you're sitting on a stack of them, make a deck, play along, see if at least understand the mechanics. And if you're not playing the game, you're not understanding the mechanics, at least watch a little gameplay video. I know Rattle's playing a Zoroark deck and stuff like that. He does a good job of talking through like the mechanics, why he's doing what he's doing. You learn your little things. You understand just like a quick ball or an ultra ball, or he's running bogs and damage pumps and stuff like that. And why are the Gengars important? He's got the Bidoof and stuff like that, and the Crobats. And why do you run certain cards in your deck? Why do you want to run your Junipers and your Marnies? And what does a boss's orders do? Why do you care about pulling somebody's bench Pokemon into their active Pokemon? Little things like that. You learn those things, makes you just appreciate everything so much more. And then if you do ever want to go the bulk route, which the bulk route is an uphill battle and it's a lot of work for a lot of people, but if you ever want to go the bulk route, you figure out why some trainers are worth a couple bucks and why people want them in their decks. Let's see. So Wes Bragg said, AOPK and all, hope everyone's doing well and pulling great hits. I'm just swinging to give a like and say hello. I appreciate that. And he brought up a good point in that comment. If everybody could hit that like button, I'd appreciate it a super lot. Yeah, Wes Bragg says, it's not a regular recession, it's a supply shock. People are spending money, but they were more conservative about it. Companies are charging more for necessities to make up losses from pandemics. Yeah, and one of the things I've heard a lot of people talking about recently too is it's not just, actual physical products going up, but people are afraid like service providers are going to start going up a lot too. And I don't think people realize like how much of people's like daily lives they deal with people that are mainly just service providers, people that don't actually make anything but just provide a service. And if services go up across the board, that's where inflation's really going to hit people the hardest. And I don't think they really understand that enough. So Imposter Oak says, do you feel like it's a good idea to send cards to PSA Vault? I haven't sent any cards to PSA's Vault because don't they just go right to like Heritage Auction or Golden Auction or one of those auction houses? PSA is not holding on to my cards. I haven't looked anything into PSA's Vault, but that's not for me. I want my cards back. I feel I could sell my cards way easier and way more fluently than PSA would be able to, because I'm going to sell mine on the world's biggest selling platform, and the world's biggest selling platform is eBay. And if I have a card that's super niche, I'll probably shop it around privately first and make it known to people that I have that card too. Retrospecs, good to see Retrospecs in the chat. If you guys haven't watched the live, I had Retrospecs join me on one of my lives. I would say maybe 4 or 5 lives ago. You can go back. It's just click on the lives tab. It was a good live. If you guys don't know him, I recommend you checking out his channel too. But he says, I think if they reprint Brilliant Stars / Evolving Skies and boxes drop any significant percentage, that might be your last time to get those banger sword and shield sets at those prices. Retro, me and you are on the exact same page or wavelengths. If we do see a reprint of Evolving Skies, which I am fingers crossed, I'm still hoping we do, whatever that lowest price is will probably be the lowest price anybody's going to be able to get into Evolving Skies from now until the foreseeable future. I think that will be a box that starts to creep back up, but it's going to take that dump to hit the market to bring those prices down in the short term. So Thor said, yeah, Pokemon Go kind of weak. Yeah, I'm not a Pokemon Go. I mean, even looking at like the hits, the big hit being obviously like the Mewtwo. I think the Mewtwo in PSA 10, I think the most recent sale for a card like that is like $70 to $80, somewhere within that price range. That is not a great price point for your most expensive, hardest chase alternative art VMAX. Mewtwo being a fan favorite Pokemon, don't get me wrong, to have that card in a PSA 10 selling between $70 and $80, that's not a good place for that set. That's not good. That is the modern day just bag. Let's see. Yeah, so we got Andrew in the chat. Good to see you, bud. So Pokeballer Billionaire said, oh, he's talking to somebody. Professor Birch says, PK, just a follow-up to the Ash's Pikachu card. There are Ash's Pikachu, I Choose You movie promos that came out. So the Ash's I Choose You, Ash's I Choose You promos, those were available at GameStop, but they only had Pikachu on them. They did have Ash's Pikachu. He is right in the title, but Ash was not in there. Ash's hat was in there. All those Pikachu artworks has Ash's hat on them. And I can't remember if there was 6 I Choose You Ash's Pikachu cards or 7 available from GameStop. Let me know down in the chat exactly how many, but he's right. He said movie came out for the movie, and Ash's Pikachu GX. Yeah. A Japanese Ash versus Team Rocket theme deck. Yeah, people saying Ash finally retiring. Yeah, man. So I think I made it. Oh my God. I don't even think I actually made it. I think I skipped a lot. I was on top chat, not live chat. I can only imagine how many comments I must have missed. I'm sorry, guys. My bad. I'm smart enough to switch over the live chat, but I was definitely on top chat. But either way, I made it to the bottom of the chat by accident. But yeah, I appreciate every single one of you guys that joined in. After this live, listen, hop over into Rattle's Discord, join me. Let's chat some Pokemon. If you got any questions, not even questions, like I said, let's just chat some Pokemon. Let's just have fun, especially if you guys are available. But if you guys aren't stopping by Rattle's Discord, I appreciate every single one of you guys. If you could smash that like button on your way out, and I'll catch you guys all in the next video.